Hello, and welcome to Spilling the Milk, the podcast where we have real conversations about what it's really like to breastfeed a baby. Today, my guest is Carolyn LaPan. Carolyn and I met at a local holistic networking group that we both attend regularly and where we both draw lots of inspiration and have made some great connections. We clicked right away. Clearly, our missions to support the health and wellness of women align in many ways, and Carolyn is a contributor to our Breastfeeding Bootcamp curriculum. It is a treat to talk to her today, not only about her own experience as a mom and with breastfeeding her first baby, but also now that she has all of this knowledge from her functional nutrition practice, when she looks back, what kind of advice can she give to new moms based in what she knows now? Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Carolyn. Carolyn, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe start back with when you were first breastfeeding your first child.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here. My name is Carolyn LaPan, and I am a master's level psychologist, and I am a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner. So I look at everything from nutrition to lifestyle, and I work a lot with women and hormone balance and with gut health issues and longevity. So those are kind of the three areas that I like to focus on, and really helping women is close and dear to my heart. So my experience, and I'm also a mom, add that to the resume. So I have two kids. I have a boy and a girl. My daughter will be 17 in a couple months, and my son is 14. So I have learned a lot being a mom, and going back to when I was breastfeeding my daughter, my firstborn, there was a lot of unknowns. I felt like I tried to read all the books and the articles and, talk to other moms, and I was open to everything. And I still felt kind of unprepared. So with her, I remember, being in the hospital and working on breastfeeding. My milk didn't come in right away. So they, maybe you'll know the name of this, but it's like that little tube that they put. So there was like a little bit of formula, but then they're latched and sucking. Mm-hmm. So to get the, the first colostrum out. So
the baby was still practicing the latch, but the nourishment was coming from the formula in this little tube that was like over your shoulder.
Yeah. So it was like a combination of both of those things. And then my milk was coming in and everything was gravy and good. And so, and then we came home, and for me, it was painful that, with her, and I would be holding her, and she looked very relaxed and peaceful, and she's latched, she's sucking, she's drinking, she's swallowing, she's just like calm, and I was feeling very tense. So
you were tense because of the pain?
Yeah, it was painful for me. And I again, I go back to like the literature and the data and what am I doing? So we went back to the doctor for a checkup like you do, after the first couple days. And they noticed the frenulum under her tongue was really close to the tip of her tongue. And so they thought that would be part of the problem. Like she's sucking hard. And
Is that a tongue tie?
Yeah,
exactly. Now you know that's what it was.
Yeah, tongue tie. Yeah, it's the frenulum, that little strip of skin underneath. So right then and there, they did a snip, and it was 100 times better. So that was something that I had no idea was a thing. I didn't know why it was hurting. Was it me? Was it her? Was it, whatever the case. But that was something that I wasn't told about, in the hospital or from my doctor. And so having had some education before, as like this could be something that's, comes up, I think, could have saved me a lot of discomfort. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not like we want to tell everyone, watch out, your baby might have a tongue tie, but just know this happens to a handful of people, and say something rather than just literally gritting your teeth.
I was literally gritting my teeth. Yeah. It was, it was very painful. So if anyone experiences something like that, like you said, it's important to mention that, because like I said, it wasn't brought up to me as a possibility. So when I raised it as an issue, then, I understood what was going on. But again, being a new mom and sleep deprived and hormones and in pain, and just like, what am I doing here? So, and after that, it was a really great experience. And that was, we're talking about a week or so in. So after that, I did nurse her, and it was a really good experience for both of us. So I did that with her for about, I think, till she was 10 months. And then a couple years later, I had my son, and he just latched right away. And it was a great experience from the beginning for both of us. And that was about a year I nursed him. So
awesome. Yeah, that first week, it's funny because like you described all that, and you're like, yeah, all of this happened within a week. But at the time, it feels like the longest time of your life. And what if the pain never went away? You're probably thinking, I can't do this forever.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it was, because you're right, it felt like a month, because every 2 hours or so I had to go through this. And I remember I had a C-section, and the nurse came to my house to remove the staples. And when she did that, I mentioned, this is, I'm having a really hard time breastfeeding. And she said, let me see. And so I showed her, and I'll never forget. She's like, oh, you poor thing. Like I was just in rough shape. So it was painful. And, but I'm glad that I said something and I got some help, because I know how important that is, for her from a nutritional standpoint, and then for us for bonding and things like that. So it ended up, like I said, it was resolved, and it was a really good experience for both of us from that point on.
Yeah, that's a happy story. I'm glad in the end, it was a happy story. I'm glad that you said something and got it addressed, and then it changed everything. And you were able to nurse for 10 months.
Yeah.
So if you could go back to yourself, like, day 2 or 3 with that baby, like, what would you tell that person now, knowing what you know?
I would say your instincts are right. Trust yourself. Keep doing what you're doing, and just talk about it. Keep talking about it to people until you find, there's obviously something wasn't right, I just knew that it shouldn't be that painful. I didn't know exactly what. I mean, it was my first baby, so I didn't have anything to compare it to, but I just thought, this just is hurting me too much. So, just bring it up and call the doctor. And it doesn't, and I waited until it was my daughter's checkup. It wasn't like I made an appointment just for that. I was like, oh, and by the way, so putting myself second. And so, yeah, I guess that's what my advice would be, is just to, speak up for yourself and protect yourself, just like you're protecting your baby, right? If someone's in pain, you figure it out. So, yeah.
That's a really good point, because of course we're going to speak up for our baby, but maybe not always for ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, and while I have you here, with all of your expertise in functional nutrition, I have to ask, if you could go back to your new mom self, now knowing everything you know about gut health, hormone health, longevity, all the wonderful things that you teach others about, what is some advice you'd give to your new mom self based on this new knowledge that you have?
I have a lot of knowledge now.
That's good. That's amazing.
So what would I give myself as a new mom? I would say two things. You have no idea how important sleep is. Sleep is, I've said it many times that you could have the best diet in the world, but if you're not sleeping, your body needs sleep. It needs sleep for blood sugar balance. Just so many things, cognitive functioning, so many things, hormonal balance, and patience as a new mom. You need patience and you need energy. So sleep is very important. And then the other thing too would be to try your best to, now my list expanded to 3. At first I said 2 things.
That's allowed. You're allowed to amend it.
So sleep, and if you can, I want to say exercise, but again, me sitting here with 2 teenagers and trying to put myself back to when I had a new baby at home. Exercise can be very difficult, number one, to fit into any sort of schedule. And number 2, again, going back to energy levels, right? But it doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be every day, but going out and just getting a 10-minute walk by yourself, doing some sort of, even if it's just like, put on some headphones and just dance for like a couple songs worth, right? Just that sort of thing, from a physical health and a mental health, I think is what new moms need to just keep going, right? It's a time that's so special and precious, but at the same time, like we know, it can be exhausting. It can be tiring.
It absolutely is exhausting.
It's just not. It's so it's not just all laced with positive. It's hard. It's exhausting. So getting rest and trying to do things to treat yourself for exercise that feels good. When I say the word exercise, I don't mean like you have to go take a class, right? It's just getting blood flowing, I think, is very helpful for recovery, postpartum, things like that. And then I said 3 things. So last would be nutrition. I certainly can't leave that out. It's super important to get calories in because you need 300 to 500 more calories a day when you're breastfeeding. So if you're not getting that in, again, that's affecting your energy level, just along the same lines when I was talking about sleep. So I would stick with things that are easy. If you can do smoothies with, I put vegetables, I put in my smoothies, I do peanut butter, I do cinnamon, I do like a whole mix of things. I do, if you can get a protein shake in once a day, that would be great. And then just something easy like steamed vegetables. It doesn't have to be anything overly complicated, but trying to get in healthy fats, an adequate amount of protein. I would say sugar and highly processed foods are, never beneficial for the body. But as far as the macronutrients, I would say nothing's off the table. Like I would not be counting calories. I would not be avoiding carbs. I would not be doing any of those things as a new mom.
But just to go back to the carbs thing, could you explain maybe an example of a carb that you would avoid because it would like spike blood sugar and leave you with less energy, or a carb that you would recommend because it would give you more of a sustained energy?
Sure. So carbs that are short-lived and have that spike that you're talking about would be something like a bagel, right? It's quick, it's easy, it's popular and they can taste good sometimes. However, it's something that would most definitely spike your blood sugar, and then you would crash after that. And that's applicable to anyone at any stage. So if you do have something like that, I would have it with a cream cheese or with a peanut butter, or pair it with something else, or like salmon and lox, or
that sounds delicious right now. I had like a small lunch. I'm like, okay, that sounds like lunch number 2.
Yeah, I actually had that earlier today, so that's why I thought of it. So with some capers, it was really good. So I would pair it with something like that. And then, your fruits can be carbs too, like bananas, are carbs. I would never avoid those. So, yeah, I mean, meals that are all carbs. So like just a bagel for breakfast, or just pizza, or a dish of spaghetti with garlic bread. Like that's just all carbs. So if you have, say, spaghetti, maybe put some meat in the sauce or some chicken on the side. So those would be much better options to pair it with a protein.
That makes sense. That's helpful. And I know, I mean, in that stage of life, the more convenient, the better. So I honestly think a really wonderful gift for a new mom would be a subscription service to like a healthy smoothie delivery, or protein shakes, or like I do those factor meals sometimes.
I do too.
Yeah, it's like whole foods. They're delicious. Like I would eat those meals at a restaurant, and there's usually healthy fats, protein, and some carbs. So I think that might be my go-to now. When someone has a baby, I'll just ask, like, would you like some meals at the ready? Because otherwise you're grabbing what's convenient, which may not be the healthiest choice.
Right. Yeah. What's convenient, what's quick. You're not giving much thought into it. You're probably already hungry or somehow depleted when you're making that decision. So, when things start to settle down, then we work on meal planning, but at the time, I love that idea, having meals delivered. And yeah, I do those factor meals, and they're non-GMO, no antibiotics, really, really good, healthy grass-fed meats, and they have, Mediterranean, whatever you're looking for. But
even vegan options, I think, or at least vegetarian. And Factor is not a sponsor of this podcast, but if they would like to be, I would welcome them, because we're giving them free airtime right now.
Yeah, they're great.
But yeah, more importantly, just finding what's going to work for your family, or at least nowadays we have grocery delivery. So, while you're feeding the baby in one arm, you could almost be on your phone, on Shipt or Instacart, ordering healthy groceries. Yeah. So having a good idea about, what types of foods would be good right now, I think is still helpful. And even if you're, ordering groceries that way.
That's a great point. That wasn't around 17 years ago for me. So that is a great point. And just being able to get deliveries a couple times a week, right? So you can just pick out a few meals and go from there. So
during a time when you don't know what day it is, or if it's day or night. Actually, let's go back to sleep for a minute, because we know sleep is so important, especially during that time, and yet it's so hard to get when you are the only person making milk. And if the baby is hungry every 2 hours, that's on you to be awake every 2 hours to feed the baby. So how do we help people balance the demands of on-demand feeding and getting adequate sleep? Like, what are some tips there?
Yeah, that's a great point. And so our typical sleep cycle is 90 minutes. So, and that's going through 4 stages. And so, when you sometimes wake up, or when you're woken up and you're just really dragging and really groggy, it's because you were in the middle of that cycle, that 90-minute cycle. So I would say the best that you can, because typically, post-feeding the baby, you feed the baby, you burp the baby, if you change him or her before or after, but typically right after that, the baby will fall asleep, sometimes while nursing, right? So if the mom can, I would say if you can fit in a 90-minute solid nap in between those feedings, that is ideal. If you can't, I would say a 20-minute. If you can only do a short window, I would do 20 minutes and try not to do more than that. A 20-minute, even like a seated, relaxed meditation will help you get some rest, and if you can't do the full sleep and the full cycle. So even just that alone will calm your mind. It will release serotonin, it'll lower cortisol, it'll activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So, sometimes, like transcendental meditation, I'm trained in that. So that will sometimes show a deeper rest during meditation than during sleep. So I would give that advice to the new moms if they could do either of those options.
That's fantastic because that's realistic. And I've actually been thinking about this. I listened to Dr. Andrew Huberman. I know you're also a big fan. And he has been talking about, it's like NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, I think. And I believe he's referring to like a meditative state, or just giving yourself intentional rest time is better than nothing. Mm-hmm. And so at least that's actionable. However, but what if you want to do laundry at that time? And what if your older child needs you? And what if this is your only time to like go on Facebook? And
right.
The struggle is real.
It's real. And those things, yeah. So like if you were to do the nursing and then say a 20-minute just, because the mom's tired too right after, right? I mean, it's draining for the mom. So if that's something that they do right after nursing, then yes, you're right. The laundry still has to get done, and there's good chance there are other kids in the house. So I would say trying your best to, again, not knowing what time it is. It's so easy to just say, but in the evenings, if you can get those 90-minute blocks in between nursing, then I would say that would be your best bet. And then a couple of the 20-minute ones that we talked about between breastfeeding during the day. And I say that because you want to try as best as you can to stay in your circadian rhythm that your body is designed to do. So during the day, we have that little pineal gland in between our eyebrows. That's another thing that Dr. Huberman talks about, getting light early in the morning. And that sets your circadian rhythm for the day, and it releases cortisol, which we want in the morning. That's our get up and go hormone. But then later on, we want that melatonin to kick in, and that's when we start to feel tired. So as much as we can stay with that schedule. So the laundry, the kids, during the day, getting help wherever and however we can is important too. But yeah, if we can get as much sleep at night and just try to stay on that schedule, I think that would be best for mom and baby.
And you said getting help. And if you think about it, if you are breastfeeding, you are the only one that can do that one particular job. But it's very possible and hopefully true that someone else could help with other kids, could prepare meals, could do the laundry, could do all of the other things that don't involve like expressing milk out of your body. So This is not the time to be shy. And in general, people do want to be helpful, but they don't always know how to be helpful or to what extent or when. And so just asking for what you need, I think is good advice for new moms that I
agree. Give. Yeah, that's because, like you said, that is the one task you can't delegate. So I agree that people in general want to help. And so going back to where we started in my story, just asking for help when you need it. And it could be something as simple as, can you, take my other kid to Airborne or something, or drop them off, or just, I'm sure there would be another parent or friend that would be happy and make them feel good inside that they're helping you. So
especially if it's a mom who has been where you are, they understand the impact of that small act of kindness can like make or break your entire day.
Totally. I think they would be happy to do it, you know.
And this brings up another point. Something I'm thinking a lot about is being a new mom within community. There's such a difference between being a new mom in isolation and feeling like you're part of a larger community. You can just sort of vent to people who get what you're going through, and or you can ask for help or advice. Did you have that kind of community when you were a new mom?
I did not. And so that's why I just really, when we met and I just heard about, your company, your program, and what your vision is just amazing. And like I said, I really want to help women as well. And I love the idea of this 360 surrounding people with help from recently new moms and moms that have, maybe like me, that have teenagers. And so you have like the personal experience, and then you have your doctor, or then you have your doula, or then you have, all these, women or men, doctors, it could be dads, are just supporting this community of this new mom, or maybe not even a first-time mom, but you're just overwhelmed. And it's a different experience when you have, it's your first, or when you have 2 or 3 at home, right? It's it's different. So having that support and having a group to, like you said, vent, to learn from, to share from. I mean, there could be just something that's mentioned in cross conversation that could be the biggest light bulb for someone. So that could have been my experience. I mean, it could have been very possible that had I been part of a group and I had mentioned that, gosh, I'm breastfeeding and it hurts so bad, someone could have said, oh, maybe her tongue is tied. I would have really benefited from having had that type of support.
Mm-hmm. Or if you heard this podcast before you had your baby, you would have thought, oh, maybe it's tongue-tied. Like
yeah, maybe it is. You never know. You hear things and you just sort of tuck it away for yourself or for someone else that you are in conversation with and they're struggling. So just having the platform and this communication and this community is amazing.
I'm excited. And that's part of the reason for the podcast, is hearing a variety of stories. I am very happy to share my experience with my 3 babies, and even with 3 babies, I've had, diverse experiences with breastfeeding and birth. But talking to lots of different moms, there's just, and again, you don't know who's listening, who's going to hear the one little tidbit that ends up being really useful for them. And that it's like, if we could do that one time, like this was all worth it, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad to be living in 2023 and we have iPhones and it's a wonderful time. However, at other points in history or in other cultures, it was the norm that when you had a baby, you were surrounded by other women of different generations who were there to give you advice, to take the baby off your hands, to take care of the older children. And it was more of a village community model. And then with the pandemic, we saw the extreme opposite, where new parents were trapped in their house with a baby, having to figure out everything by themselves. Normally we say, ask for help, reach out, have someone come over and watch the baby so you two can take a little bit of a break. And that wasn't an option. So I think that was the kick in the pants. I was like, whoa, we need to increase the amount of community for new moms no matter what. But post-pandemic, this is so very obvious that it's needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was, what an extreme that was. And even in the delivery room, sometimes, you couldn't have your partner or usually you have someone with you. And I really, having this available is, I think, going to help a lot of people, because that was the case. I had my mother and my mother-in-law at my house helping, and I needed it. I just to hold the baby while I go take a shower, that's precious time that I needed,
I know. I remember getting to the end of the day. It's like, did I shower today? I don't remember. Did I eat today? I don't remember. Am I wearing the same clothes as 2 days ago? I think I am. Is the baby well fed and rested and their diapers changed? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm doing something here.
Right. Yep. I had the same experience.
Are there any parting words, anything that we didn't cover yet today that you want to share with our audience? Anything that comes to mind for you?
I think, maybe I didn't call this out earlier, but just, when I talk about sleep and nutrition and exercise, I think from a mental health standpoint, I keep going back to being patient with yourself. And, we oftentimes will feel, especially in a new situation, like things are out of control. And I think just taking, a deep breath and only looking at maybe the next immediate task or in the next hour or in the next, otherwise it can be really overwhelming if you think, I need to clean the whole house and I have all these errands to run and I have this and that. I think that just keeping things in check, being patient with yourself and loving yourself through this and knowing that, you and your baby through breastfeeding are giving your baby the best gift that you can. So I would say that.
That's great advice. And be patient with yourself and focus on the task at hand. Be present. That's advice that someone can apply even if they're still pregnant or not pregnant yet, or the baby's older. That's something I love. The more I dive into what's useful for supporting a woman's health in the breastfeeding stage, most of that is also helpful during pregnancy, before pregnancy, after postpartum. So that's kind of nice. It's like everything you're learning now to take care of your body during this specific season, and how you're learning to relate to your baby, it's going to translate. It's going to continue to pay dividends if you put in the time now to learn how to take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing that now, and then you're now a role model for that baby. So,
yeah. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for coming in today and speaking with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Spilling the Milk. If you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe in your favorite podcast app, and a new episode will land automatically in your feed once we release it. Please also share with anyone you think would also enjoy our podcast. You can follow us at Empowered Bumps and Boobs on Instagram and Facebook. And you can visit empoweredbumpsandboobs.com to subscribe to our newsletter and stay updated on all the great things we have coming out. Very specifically, we have Breastfeeding Bootcamp launching soon. And if you subscribe to our list, you will be the first to know when enrollment is open. Thank you so much and take great care.